You ready? I notice we have one guest online. Okay. Okay, it's 6:30. Welcome, everyone. This is the City Council meeting for the City of Fairway, Kansas. It is Monday, February 10th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Nathan, do you have any announcements? And I have none. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is a proclamation for Black History Month. I would like to read that into the record. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas Black History Month evolved out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter J. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas the City of Fairway continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community, the state, the country, and the world. And whereas the City of Fairway will join with the nation in celebrating National Black History Month by honoring the essential contributions, sacrifices, and accomplishments of African Americans in our community, throughout our state, and our nation as part of American history. Now that, therefore, in recognition of African Americans, past and present, in our community, I, Melanie Hepperly, Mayor of the City of Fairway, Kansas, do hereby proclaim February 2025 as Black History Month in the City of Fairway, Kansas, and call this observance to the attention of all our residents, dated this 10th day of February 2025. Next on the agenda are the monthly reports of the standing committees. Consolidated Fire District Number 2, they present to us quarterly and are not here this evening. Administration and Finance, Nathan.
Thank you, Mayor. For the administration report, I will let it stand, just pointing out that we do have the resolution for the hazard mitigation plan on the new business item this evening, as well as the funding agreement for 2820 West 53rd. I do have a correction in my comments about the police station space needs assessment. The last line of that, I had a typo where I said potential of acquiring property for a new city hall. Obviously, we are not acquiring a new city hall, but we are looking for options for the PD. So just a correction there on that note. You can see there were 4 agreements that I signed. 2 of them were approved by council at the December City Council meeting. The other 2 were well within the city administrator's authority. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on administration.
Any questions for Nathan on admin? Okay, Finance, Nathan?
At the Administration and Finance Committee meeting, our only topic was for the sales tax distribution for January, which would have been November's collections. The city brought in about $223,000 in sales tax, divided up amongst varying funds. That is above our budgeted amount of $204,000. So it was an above average month for sales tax.
Any questions for Nathan on Finance? Thank you, Nathan. Police, Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Just an overview of our January activity. We assisted outside agencies in numerous pursuits, all of which the suspects were taken into custody. We also were called to a financial institution within Fairway where we made an arrest on a ring of individuals that were cashing fraudulent checks. Likely within just that day, they were probably traveling across the country. Likely within that day, they had cashed about $36,000 worth, and we broke that up. There was an auto burglary and a stolen auto last month. The auto burglary window was shattered, but nothing was taken. But in plain view, in the vehicle was an iPad and cash in the center console. We think that probably the individuals that broke that window were probably frightened away by some means, and they didn't take those items. The stolen auto that was taken was a result of the vehicle running with the keys in it, unattended, unlocked in the driveway. Lastly, we did have a number of accidents, and one of which involved 2 juvenile children on Canterbury. And I'm sure later on we will be discussing that. I'll let the rest of my report stand, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Kelly?
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. On January 15th, you reported an animal incident on the 5400 block of Aberdeen. Could you give us a little bit more details on that, please, Chief?
While he's looking, there are some seats in the front row, if you'd like to sit down.
So that would have been forwarded to our animal control. I'm not sure on what the outcome of that call was. I know we responded on it. Obviously, we would not have left the dog out. So either we contacted the resident or animal control came and handled that. But I'll follow up. I'm happy to follow up on that for you.
Was the owner at home?
That I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, chief. There's some seats in the front row, and there's some in the second row. So please come in and take one of those. It's going to be a long night, so you might want to sit down. Public Works, Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. I will let my report stand as submitted as well. One thing I'd like to point out is during January, we had a couple snow events. One was fairly large, and as always, staff addressed it, I think, better than most areas in the metro area, from what I've been told. Someone let their meathead department head go out of town during that snowstorm, so I was in Florida. Not that that matters. But staff always handles it well. We have more snow in the forecast, but we've been working, making sure everything's ready to go again. So rinse, lather, repeat. It is the wintertime in the Kansas City metropolitan area. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, Bill, we know you didn't do that intentionally, but you, no comment.
No comment.
But you missed a lot of the compliments. So I will say one big thank you from all of those that, we passed along a lot of emails to you, but the council also was very complimentary, so thank you, and pass that along to your staff, please.
I did. I actually took time to listen to the audio from the council meeting in January.
Oh,
and
good.
it was-
Oh, good. Great. Any questions for Bill? Yeah, Lee?
Lee Story, Ward 1. I'll just echo what the mayor said, thank you. I also heard plenty of compliments. You guys do a wonderful job. I was just curious, with the 2024-25 snow removal costs, and I know we have one on the way that you mentioned, how is where we are this year stack up against years past in your mind, do you think?
I would say it's, can't really write that chapter until the entire winter's done. But there hasn't been a lot of events, but when we get it, if that makes sense. So it all depends on whenever they hit. These were on weekends and holidays, which always cost more whenever you have to call people in on overtime and such. But I would say, we usually have, 8 to 10 events and average about, 20 inches of snow a year. And we got 12 in one setting, and they're calling for 5 to 8 again. So we can surpass our average.
No,
in
that
2
means
snow
we're
events.
done.
Yeah,
Isn't that the way it works?
I would think so.
Yes, we're done.
Please keep up the good work, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Parks and Rec, Bryce?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll let my report stand as submitted. I will say we're going to have our brochure out here shortly in the next couple of weeks. Registration for summer camps, for memberships, for super passes, for our new baby pool pass. All that fun stuff will start on March 1st. So we're looking forward to getting the summer season going here and March 1.
Okay, I'd like to point out the winter, spring, and fall report that was included in the packet. Thank you.
Yeah.
That information is very, very valuable. I know you shared it with the Parks and Rec Committee, and it was similar to what we saw for the summer report. Keep those coming.
Yep.
Very
will do.
informative. Thank
Will
you.
do.
Any questions for Bryce? Okay, great. Monthly reports of the special committees, tree board.
No
Bill?
report.
Okay. Next is public comment for consent agenda items only. I will read those into the record. Approved minutes of the previous regular city council meeting. Approved claims and appropriations, ordinance number 1821, January 2025. Approve agreement with Donnellinger Construction for swimming pool main drain repairs. Approve Parks and Rec master plan agreement. E, approve agreement with Confluence for Peterson Park improvements, Phase 2 design. F, approve annual mayoral appointments. And G, authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Luke Cush's Construction, Inc. for the restoration of the Shawnee Mission Tunnel. Yay! The tunnel's gonna get done. Okay, is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to comment on the consent agenda? Nathan? Hearing none, I'll close that. These items are determined to be routine enough to be acted on in a single motion. However, this does not preclude discussion. If a council member requests, an item may be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration and separate motion. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item? David?
Mayor, I don't want to remove an item. I just have a question for Bryce
Okay.
about the Parks and Rec master plan. Hey, Bryce, on the master plan, does that include any of what I'd just call our sort of non-park green space? I couldn't tell if it does or if it's just the existing parks. Is it all of those areas also?
All the areas, so they'll evaluate all the areas where potential parks could go, where potential green space could just continue to be green space. What else we could do with that type of land that the city owns right now that we would be able to put something on top of that.
Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve items A through G on the consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve consent agenda items A through G. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. All right, new business. Item A, Ward 4 City Council vacancy, interviews and appointment. For those of you in the audience who don't know, we had a council member from Ward 4, Jenna Brofsky, resign before the end of her term. She has not left Fairway, she just moved from Ward 4 to Ward 2. And you can't remain a council person for Ward 4 without living in the ward in which you're the council person. So January was her last meeting. We ran, what'd you do, Nathan? How'd you advertise the opening?
Emails, the website, and Facebook.
Okay. And we received 5 applicants, which is wonderful. And the process that we follow, a committee interviews all of the applicants, and that committee is apprised of the mayor, the remaining council person for that ward, and that is Tanya Keys for Ward 4, and then the president of the council. Jenna was president of the council, so the committee was comprised of just the two of us. So this past week, Tanya and I interviewed all 5 candidates, and we narrowed that to 2 finalists. And they are with us this evening. They will be interviewed by the council here in the public, and we will be doing that now. Tanya, I'd like you to choose a number between 1 and 10. Write it on the piece of paper in front of you and show it to your neighbor. Show Joe what it is. Okay? And then I would ask the 2 candidates to please stand. Whitney Henley and Cassie Thompson. Okay, Whitney, if you'll choose a number between 1 and 10, and the closest one to her chosen number will go first.
I'll go at number 3.
Okay?
I'll go at 7.
Who's the closest?
I had number 1.
Okay. Whitney, it's you.
Whitney won.
Yeah, Whitney won. Very good, Lee. We like humor. All right, council. Whitney is ready for your questions. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please raise your hand and I'll recognize you. And you can interview her for as long as you wish. Joe?
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for being here and applying. I have 2 questions for you. The first one, have you ever served on a board, social, religious, professional, any of that kind?
Yeah, I have served on professional boards. I was on the North Central College Health Association board with my former employer up in Wisconsin when I worked as a wellness coordinator. I served as secretary on that board for 1 term of 2 years.
Good. And the second question is, what be the 3 most important services or amenities do you think are important to Fairway?
Oh, goodness. I will go, that's a really tough question. The ones that come to mind first are the 3 that I've heard from, being policing, public works, and Parks and Rec, but I can't, there's a
Good answer.
a lot after that I like to, would love to mention
Right.
to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Jerry?
Hi, Jerry Williams, Ward 2. Thanks for being here and thanks for showing interest. If you could describe for me your leadership style in a few words, what would that be?
I think listening, working collaboratively, and really keeping a common goal at the forefront of what we're doing and really focusing and being kind of goal-oriented and process-oriented.
Okay, one more question. And also in a few words, this is like a corporate interview. How do you handle difficult conversations?
I think for me, I have a background in research and evaluation, and so I work at KU in their telemedicine department, and I think having that research background, it's just natural for me to try to make sure I'm gathering as much of the information and the story as possible, making sure that everyone is heard and taking the time to listen to everyone, so that way when the decision-making process comes or working towards a solution, I'm really able to make sure that I have the big picture and can act upon it in that way.
Kelly?
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. Hi, welcome.
Heidi.
What made you decide that you wanted to become part of the city council for Ward 4? And what do you feel makes Ward 4 important as one part of our city? What drives you to see how important that part of the city is? Thank you.
That's a good question. I learned about the position when Jenna lives right down the street from me, so when I learned that she was moving, I knew then, and then I got the email from Nathan. And I think the main, I hate to almost be cliche, is using the term just like civic duty feels not quite appropriate, but given the opportunity to serve a city that I love living in Fairway. In the interview, they asked me, like, what problems do you see? And I'm like, I don't really think of very many problems with how the city runs. I think we're blessed to be in an environment that is a beautiful place to live, that has friendly neighbors, great services. And I think Ward 4, I'm at the very, very corner of the city, and I think Ward 4 is just really special. I think one of the things that I like about it is I have 2 daughters that go to Highlands, and we get all that traffic coming through our street and neighbors going back and forth to the school. And we're a bit of a city highway in that regard. And I love seeing all the kids running up and down our streets and playing and being active and on their way to school in the playground and back and forth all afternoon long. And I think being part of that and that way of being part of that connectivity is something that's special about Ward 4. But as a whole, the city's just a great place to live and work and play. I'm also lucky my office is at the Fairway Office Park, so I have a 1.5 minute to 2 minute commute when I drive down road to get there. So it's nice to just have everything close and in that regard. Yeah, thank you.
David?
Hi, Whitney. Everybody says nice things, and welcome to you as well. You sort of touched on one thing. You said you aren't really were any problems or big, but if there was one issue or topic that if you were to be on the council that you would like to see addressed, what might that be?
Well, I think back to the interview that I had with Mayor and with Councilwoman Tanya, and one of the things that I talked about was if there's anything that I'm seeing, it is maybe a lack of engagement among community members, but I think I stand corrected tonight. However, I will say that I think that there are a lot of people in our city that don't know what's going on, that don't read the newsletters, and I think figuring out that balance of communications, because you certainly don't want to inundate everyone with every little piece of information that comes up, because then people will turn off their emails and not pay attention anymore. But I think figuring out that balance to make sure that the community has the information that they need and has the opportunities to become involved when they see that it's appropriate to do so. Thank you.
Dan?
Mine is short and sweet. How long have you been a Fairway resident?
Almost 9 years, coming up on 9 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lee?
Hi, Whitney, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for stepping up to serve. On the city council, you're going to be dealing with different people that have different points of view, and we often require compromise. And so my question is, how do you deal with folks if they do not share the viewpoint that you have, knowing that our job is to get to a consensus?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just creating an environment of listening and respect and being respectful to people's differing beliefs is so important and something that I strive for. So I think making sure that everyone at the table is heard and understood, and even if I don't get my way or others don't get their way, we need to treat each other professionally and respectfully.
Great, and is there a favorite part of Fairway that you enjoy, or your family?
I spend a lot of time at the pool and at Peterson Park with my kiddos, and I think most days, I walk my kids to and from school, and most days when I walk home and I have that, we call it our tree tunnel, because the trees just meet across our road, I just feel happiness every time I have that moment of walking down the street, winter, spring, summer, fall. It's just beautiful.
Well, thanks again. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Tanya, did you come up with any more questions? I did not. Okay. Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you.
No, you can just leave it. Okay, Cassie, your turn.
Hello.
Who wants to go first? David?
Yeah, I'll go. David Watkins again, Ward 3. Just to be fair, I'll ask you the same question. If you're elected to be on the council, what would you say would be the one issue or the primary issue you'd like to see addressed as a council person?
I would say, you know, each ward has its own very distinct personality, and really looking out for our ward. I know one thing that I kind of find fascinating is I look at like the ordinance on trash cans, and in Ward 4, we have a bunch of old houses and very little garage space, and I see the citations issued in the packets and stuff like that, and it kind of heavily is against Ward 4, and so making sure that we're looking out for those small houses with our 1930s and 40s space.
Jerry?
Jerry Williams, Ward 2. Very nice resume. I was wondering, can you take me on a quick journey how you got from classical antiquity in 2012 to a BA in mechanical engineering 10 years later?
I'm a Jane of many trades. So I started off in aerospace engineering at KU. I decided it wasn't for me, and I switched to classics. I was a Latin student all through high school and was very passionate about it. So I graduated with, I spent a semester in the anthropology department before they're like, you need to be in classics. And so I had every intention of doing art conservation, specifically three-dimensional archaeological conservation. But it's hard to get into the schools, and I fell in love, and I followed my husband down to Texas. He's a chemical engineer working in oil company down there, and I thought about doing underwater archaeology for a brief stint, so I spent some time in a commercial dive school, and then I came out of commercial dive school right as the oil crash of 2013 happened, and 2014, and I told my husband we're moving back to Kansas to be near family, and bounced around some careers up here before finally I was working at Cerner, and just kind of overqualified for a lot of the positions I was starting in. And so 5 days before the semester started at UMKC, I applied to engineering school, and they accepted all of my transfer credits going back to 2007. And I looked at my husband and I said, I guess we're doing this. And so I graduated 2 years later with my mechanical engineering degree.
Kelly?
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. Cassie, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Whitney. What made you decide that you wanted to be a city council member for Ward 4? What was the passion that drove you to that?
It's kind of a similar answer. I felt like it was a civic duty. I wanted to make sure that the position had applicants. I toyed with not applying, but then I had several neighbors message me and my husband and ask if one of us would consider running. And so I applied.
Lee?
Lee Story, Ward 1. Hey, Cassie. Thanks for being here. My question is, have you given any thought yet to how you would engage your fellow residents to make sure that their voices are heard in the council and in the city?
Well, I'm a talker, and so I already meet with a lot of people. I have a dog. We go walking pretty regularly, and I regularly stop to talk with all of my neighbors. We've been known for hosting block parties on our block. We've had some pretty good turnout the last few years that we've done it, 60 or so residents. And so really just trying to engage with my neighbors and being friendly is the best way to do it, I think.
And I'll ask you the same thing that I asked Whitney. Do you have a favorite part of Fairway or a favorite activity in Fairway? Or
I also have children, and so we do spend a lot of evenings at the pool. I love the size of the pool and just how relaxed the atmosphere is. I roll down there in the stroller with the kiddos, and we just pack up dinner and eat dinner poolside. I also live 2 blocks from the creamery, so I spend a good amount of time there.
Thank you. It's great to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Dan?
Thank you again. I think another council member asked our other applicant this, but have you served on any professional boards?
I work at Evergy, and we have business resource groups essentially that are cultural engagement type groups. I serve on our Future Forward, which is like an innovative type group looking at emerging technologies within our space. I sit as our events chair and coordinator. We plan numerous speakers and things throughout the year. I also sit on our recruitment board for UMKC.
And as a fellow engineer, are you, do you have a professional engineering license, or is that a plan to get one in the future?
I do not currently, since I've only been in the industry for 2 years now, so I still have a little ways to go.
Okay.
Joe?
Last but not least, Joseph Levin, Ward 3. Dan already asked one of my questions, so we'll shorten this a lot. I'll ask the same questions I asked Whitney, that is, what do you think the 3 most important things are to Fairway residents as respects services or amenities?
I would say public works, it's what keeps our city running. Without the snow removal, we wouldn't be able to get anywhere. Without taking care of all of the little things of our facilities and our spaces. Police, it's what keeps us safe. And probably like planning, because without our planning, that's what keeps our city what our city is.
All right, thank you.
Tanya? Nope.
Could I ask one quick follow-up
Sure,
question?
David.
Couldn't ask this of you, Whitney, sorry, but given your association with Evergy, if you were elected to the city council, could you guarantee we'll never, ever have a power outage again in the future?
I wish I could, but I have to go to the same outage page like everyone else. I don't get any special privileges, unfortunately. No free energy for me either.
Thank you, Cassie.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Cassie and Whitney, thank you very much. We appreciate your interest in the city. We appreciate you stepping up to volunteer to serve that city. You both are very qualified candidates. Tanya and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversations with you. I think both interviews were 45 minutes to an hour. So I felt that we got to know you both very well. So thank you for your time. And I know this is difficult. Only one of you will be sworn in this evening. But I wanted to say thank you. Okay, I have been asked if we can do a ballot vote. And Nathan, when you walked up here, said, no, we cannot. State statutes do not allow for secret ballot. They must be on the record. So I will do a roll call of the council, and if you please will tell me who you are voting for. I will keep track, and Nathan, you too. Okay? All right, we'll start with Tanya.
Cassie?
Joe?
Whitney?
Dan?
Cassie?
Lee?
Whitney.
The mayor doesn't get to vote unless there's a tie, and since we have an odd number, there's not going to be a tie. So, Kelly?
Whitney?
Jerry?
Whitney?
And David?
Well, if my math is correct, I don't have to vote for anybody.
Well, yeah, but you're going to.
But I will vote, so I will go with Whitney also.
All right, the voting results that I show, Nathan, is 5 for Whitney, 2 for Cassie. All right. Would you come forward, please, Whitney? We always have to take pictures.
I do solemnly swear that I will support. I do solemnly swear. Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Kansas. And faithfully discharge the duties of council member. And faithfully discharge the duties of council member. Of the city of Fairway, Kansas. Of the city of Fairway.
Congratulations. We usually leave the mics off, Whitney, unless you're speaking. I can't tell if you have them on or not, but usually leave it off when you're not. All right, moving on to new business, item B. Consider Resolution 2025B, a resolution adopting the Kansas Region L Hazard Mitigation Plan. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor. This item was discussed at our Administration and Finance Committee meeting. This is an annual 5-year review of the county's plan. It's actually Johnson, Wyandotte, and I think there's another county involved as well. But this is just the FEMA region. It is our hazard mitigation plan. There are a number of items that are identified within the hazard mitigation plan for possible projects the city could take to mitigate hazards in a variety of topics, everything from protecting city buildings from fire to protecting public infrastructure from flooding. We are not required to do any of the projects that are listed out in the plan. However, we do need to adopt the resolution adopting the plan just so that the region can remain eligible for federal funding and some of the other items that were listed there in the memo.
All right, council, any questions or discussion on this matter? David? No? Okay. I will open item B to the audience for public comment. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Nathan, anyone online? Okay. I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2025-B, which is a resolution adopting the Kansas Region L Hazard Mitigation Plan.
And I second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2025B. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Item C, consider Resolution 2025C, a resolution acknowledging an amendment to the development agreement with Fairway AA LLC. AA stands for Active Adult. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor. So what we are looking at here is an amendment to the development agreement that was approved several years ago. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Fairway AA LLC project is the large active adult complex that's being constructed at our old location down in the office park on Shawnee Mission Parkway. We actually started, the development agreement went into effect on January 1 of 2024. The developer has requested a delay in their annual payment to us for public safety until the end or until the third quarter. Obviously they don't have anyone living there right now, so they don't have any revenues coming in. So we've discussed it with legal. We think it's a reasonable request. They did make the payment for 2024 in 2024. They have already made their payments to the civic organization, the foundation, as well as to the fire district. So they're only asking for us to delay the city payment until September 30th. The other piece of that is just to update the substantial completion date. They are generally on schedule to end. I think they're both sections 1 through 4 and 4 through 8 are slated to be complete in July. But the severe weather in January did set them back, and it's likely that they could see some setbacks later this week. So they're just requesting that we give them the extension until the end of the calendar year, so they don't have to come back and request a separate amendment for that, should weather dictate that. So staff and legal are supportive of both those changes to the development agreement. They're lined out in the actual amendment, which is separate from the resolution, but was also included in the packet.
And everything I'm being told by my contacts there at the Fieldston is that it should be September, October time. But they asked to go to the end of the year just so they wouldn't have to ask again. But they are basically on schedule, except for the January hurt them a little bit. Okay, council, any questions, discussion on this matter? Kelly.
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. Nathan, is the payment for the new police officers that we've engaged to work for the city of Fairway for the $116,000, is that what that money is for?
102,000 of it is for the public safety agreement that's within the development agreement. And that is meant to fully fund a police officer position. The other $14,000 is just an additional public safety payment, but it's just outlined separately from the portion that's used to pay for the additional officer.
Since we've made that hire already, how are we going to pay for our new employee?
It's really just a matter of cash flow. So there's funding available to essentially float until we're able to receive that payment in September. And just so the audience knows, that agreement that runs with the development agreement is for the life of the TIF agreement that we have. So for the next 22 years, 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
CIDs are 22. For the next 20 years, the developer will be making these public safety payments to the city of Fairway. And there is a 2% escalator on the original $100,000 for the hiring of a new police officer. The other amount is just a flat 14 and change for the life of the TIF.
While we're talking about this, I'm going to put you on the spot, Nathan. Since we have an audience, and it's so nice, because we usually don't, we're talking to ourselves, share with the audience what the other commitments that EPC, in their TIF agreement, did for the city?
Sure.
Like,
So
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
On the TIF agreement, essentially what happens then is the property tax rate freezes for the life of the TIF. So we built in an escalator for the fire department, since they are also a levied jurisdiction, so they will continue to receive increases throughout the life of the TIF to accommodate that freeze in the property tax valuation that they receive. We also, as a part of a civic engagement, the developer is required to remain an active participant in the Northeast Johnson County Chamber of Commerce, as well as contribute annually to the Shawnee Indian Mission Foundation for their ongoing efforts there as well.
Thank you. Any other questions for Nathan? Yes, Dan.
I think continuing on Kellyanne's topic there, so to be clear, we're going to receive the same amount. There's no deduction in what the city will ultimately receive. It's just a delay in payment.
Correct.
Okay. And second, is probably more of a comment than anything. I would subscribe to the line of thought that substantial completion dates should have slack built into them and should not be moving. Is the developer confident that this is a one-time, are you under the impression that the developer is confident this is a one-time they're going to be asking for this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to hold it up, but again, I don't think those dates should be changing.
Sure.
Anyone else? Yeah, David.
Related to that question, Nathan, when have they started leasing, pre-leasing, or when does that start?
They are well underway on the pre-leasing. It's been a while since I've checked in with the developer, but industry standard is to be about 20% leased by the time doors open. And the last I spoke with the developer, which was some time ago, they anticipate being over 50% leased by the time the doors open.
And that's what I'm being told too, David? That's what I'm being told also, that over 50% they expect. So leasing is going very well.
That's excellent. That certainly is reassuring in terms of just a delay and not a default. Thank you.
Heaven forbid. Okay, I will open the floor for public comment on this item. Anyone in the audience wish to come to the podium? Nathan, online? All right, is there a motion on item C?
Mayor, I move that we consider and approve Resolution 2025C, a resolution acknowledging the amendment to the development agreement with Fairway AA LLC.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2025C. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Yes.
This may be the worst idea of the night, but, so somebody can say no, but is there any way we can open up the overflow room?
It's actually set up for open gym tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, item D. Consider amendment to agreement with Burns and McDonnell for 2025 CARS application to study feasibility of improvements to 53rd Street and to conduct a warrant analysis. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. In front of the council for consideration is amendment to our current CIP work that's going on with Burns and McDonnell for 2025 and 2026. This amendment will include a study of the 53rd Street and Canterbury corridor to provide a warrant analysis for a crosswalk, if not an RRFB, and installing sidewalks along the south side of 53rd Street.
Okay.
And we have two representatives from Burns and McDonnell here in case there's any technical questions the council would have.
Would you please introduce them?
Sure. We have Jason Meyer, who's the project lead and whose children go to Bishop Miege, and we have Phil Herman, who's standing up in the back, who lives in Fairway, so he had a long drive here.
Do they have, Jason, do you have any kind of presentation or anything? You're here for questions? Okay. All right. Council, I'll open it to you first.
I would also like to point out, if you'll notice on the schedule, the completion is to be by March 3rd, so we're going to be moving rather swiftly on this project. We've already given the go-ahead to the folks that'll be doing the survey starting tomorrow morning to get ahead of the snow.
Great. Great. I'll make a comment here first, because I know a lot of residents are here for this issue. And for those of you that I've communicated with you via email, I see a lot of you here, but many more that didn't. It's very, very heartbreaking, the accident. The Newells are my friends, and they're my neighbors, and their three kids are often in my yard, and when they first moved in, they helped me rake my leaves, and they're great kids. So this is a very, very emotional issue for many of us. But I want you to know that immediately the day after the accident, I met with the police chief and the public works director and city administrator, and we began our discussions and put together a plan of action. And Bill has just told you what are the fruits of those. The accident happened on a Wednesday, I do believe, and Thursday we met. Friday he met with the engineer Friday morning, that very next Friday morning. So we made it happen as quickly as we could, and these are the results of that meeting, and I'm glad to hear that they are expediting getting the warrant analysis out there. That's great. Is there anything that the council questions, Dan?
Mine is a purely technical question, but Burns and McDonnell may not even need to address it. I read the proposal. It looks very complete. I appreciate how it was broken out into, different phases. So my technical question is, if we get to a spot where a crosswalk is not recommended, does the city automatically go through the additional phases?
I would think we would want to. At the end of the day, we would still like to get a sidewalk, I think, on that side of the street, or if nothing else, have the plans for a sidewalk on that side of the street. And then there's also if a push-button crosswalk is not, if it doesn't, pass the warrant analysis, there's also, we could look at the RRFB, which would be the second part of that, which was also included in the proposal.
So this includes evaluation of a sidewalk through
Yes.
through the whole corridor?
Mm-hmm. That's why we're trying to get them started on the survey. It's not going to be a fun process.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Kelly? yes.
Was it-
Nathan, go ahead.
I was just wanting to add just a little bit about process. And so, just so the audience understands, 53rd Street is what's considered a CARS-eligible route, or a County Assisted Roads System road. So the work that we would be doing there would technically be eligible for, or potentially be eligible for up to 50% reimbursement from the county. We are moving quickly on this because the application deadline for CARS projects for 2026 is actually in March 8th. So we're trying to move with the engineers to move very quickly on this. But just to kind of set the expectations, I know I've been emailing with some residents as well. We are required to follow what's referred to as the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or MUTCD. And so if we're looking at doing some sort of an engineered solution on the road, such as a crosswalk, whether it has any sort of lights associated with it or not, we are bound by some of the standards that are in the MUTCD, as well as some other standards setting boards that are out there. So we are going through this. The idea here is to look at traffic counts, pedestrian counts, really look at the whole picture and see what is eligible to be put there in terms of what the MUTCD allows for that particular traffic area. We're looking at all of the possible solutions for 53rd Street and Canterbury. But I just wanted to be clear that this isn't a matter of necessarily just going out and doing what the city wants. We do have to be data-driven in the process, because we do have to be following the MUTCD. So I just want to put that out there, that as we get the study results back and we start to see these recommendations coming in, they are all going to be very data-driven. So I just want everybody to keep those in mind as we move forward.
And one other thing that I would add to Nathan's comments, things are complicated there are three parties involved here: the school, the city of Fairway, and the city of Roland Park. Because the line between Roland Park and Fairway is the middle of 53rd Street. So all three entities are involved in resolving this problem. Kelly?
Bill, this is Kelly Busick, Ward 1. So with that being said about all three institutions and/or cities being involved, how, moving forward, how are you going to address that with your cohorts? And also, I want to thank all the citizens of Fairway who emailed us their concerns. I really appreciate your reaching out to us, because that's what we're here for, and I thank you very much.
We've had talks with the city of Roland Park, and they're very interested in seeing what the study produces. And I don't get the hint from them that they will be an obstruction in the process whatsoever.
Council, any other?
Bill or
David?
someone from Burns and Mac, I use a lot of terms of art in the legal area, but what is a warrant analysis? It must have been a good question, because it knocked out everything. Is an analysis say, is a proposed plan of action warranted?
That's what we call a lateral, David.
Go ahead, Phil. Phil Herman with Burns & McDonnell. Warrant analysis is basically where we're looking at the vehicular data, the vehicular volumes, pedestrian volumes, and seeing if they meet thresholds for a criteria. Maybe it's installing a traffic signal, maybe it's a pedestrian hybrid beacon. Whatever the installation is, there's warrants in the MUTCD, and we have to look at the data to make sure that those warrants are met before we can install anything.
Warrant is kind of like criteria, or?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Council, anyone else? Okay, I will open the floor for public comment. If anyone has anything they'd like to comment on or ask questions, please come to the microphone and state your name and address. Is there anyone? Brandon?
My name is Brandon Newell. I live at 5340 Canterbury Road. I just prepared a statement to kind of share with everyone. My wife and family have made Fairway our home in 2006, and I'm very happy to be here. I would like to share a brief statement about the recent accident that occurred on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025 at 3:20 p.m. Our two youngest children, Connor, age 10, 5th grade, and Annie, age 7, 2nd grade, were attempting to cross the street after school on St. Agnes Catholic School at the intersection of West 53rd Street and Canterbury Road. Some crossing that they have done hundreds or probably well over 1,000 or 2 times every year. Unfortunately, they were unexpectedly struck by a car, injured, and my son broke his ankle. The lack of sidewalks along the south side of West 53rd Street prevents anyone from crossing here. So we have to either cross the street or walk distantly across people's yards to go to distant crosswalks. This makes it a necessity to cross the street at this intersection. In 2004, the crosswalk at this specific location was removed and not reinstalled. We were also told that this portion of the street had once been classified as a school zone in the past, but is not now, and thus has a higher listed speed limit. This recent incident has underscored the urgent need to reassess the speed limits in this area, to establish a crossing point here, necessary signage, speed bumps if necessary, extend the school zone if possible, to protect our children and all pedestrians from similar accidents. The foot traffic in this area, especially given the presence of St. Agnes Catholic School, St. Agnes Catholic Church, Bishop Amish High School, and parking, KU parking, annual fireworks, and any admission events is higher than ever. The school parking lot itself empties onto West 53rd Street. On our block of Canterbury Road alone, north of Shawnee Mission Parkway, we have 40 adults, 12 young children, 17 dogs, many who walk this street, specifically that cross area, daily, including myself, morning and night. Thank you in advance for your rapid and amazing support. We have been told that there has been a study to best determine the next steps to address these issues. We believe that community safety is a shared responsibility, and we are all part of the solution. We do love our community and appreciate your care and concern. Last week, we, for the first time, spoke in front of the city of Roland Park at their city council meeting just to inform them of the accident. They expressed willingness to work with the city of Fairway to make the street safer for everyone. We feel very fortunate that our children survived the accident. We are here to make sure that we can do all we can to prevent future accidents, injuries, and potential deaths, not only of our kids, but our friends and our neighbors. Neighborhood safety is important to all of us. We appreciate your willingness to address this safety issue and implement appropriate safety measures for pedestrians, and we look forward to seeing the changes that can be done walking around Fairway more safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Is there anyone else? Yes, please. Gene?
Gene Sands, live in Ward 1, been a resident at 5341 since the Memorial Day weekend of 1975. So that makes me probably one of the older and longer residents of the city. Live directly across the street from the Newells and the 3 kids who we absolutely love. Got a question now. I understand that we have these requirements from the Uniform Traffic Code or whatever, I'm sorry. What are the plans if for whatever reason that should be denied? We need a crosswalk there, and if we have to do something beyond that, what are we talking about?
We will cross that time when it happens.
Is there a commitment that we will do whatever we need to do to get a crosswalk there for the benefit of all of those folks, children and animals that Brandon mentioned?
Just to answer your question, we do not have latitude to go against what the MUTCD suggests or requires.
Is there an appeal process if it is denied?
Well, it's simply a matter of data. So the data has to be run. We don't have any data, recent data collected. So until we know what data is there, we will not know what solutions are available to us. So we have to collect the data. That gets measured against the requirements of the MUTCD, and then the engineers will come up with, hopefully, a variety of solutions for the governing body to consider. But until we have data, there's no way to answer what exactly can occur there.
Are we going to be circulating information periodically as updates to what's going on?
So our standard policy as the city is when we conduct any sort of a traffic study or a pedestrian study, when the data is available, we share it online. So it is available for anybody to take a look at.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Anyone else? Cassandra?
My name is Cassandra Newell. I live at 5340 Canterbury Road. Sorry, this is really hard. I've been a Fairway resident for almost 9 years. 9 years ago, my husband and I were searching for a home near a school that we wanted our kids to attend. That's St. Agnes. We found a wonderful home on Canterbury Road between 53rd Street and Shawnee Mission. We couldn't believe it. We thought, wow, the school is right down the street from our house and the church. We thought it was perfect. As our kids grow, they can walk, they can bike to school, and maintain an active, healthy, independent lifestyle. However, January 29th, 2025, around 3:20, is a day I will unfortunately never forget. I received a phone call with my daughter Annie screaming and crying in the background. And I heard the terrifying words that no parent ever wants to hear, that your children's been hit by a car. I rushed to the accident scene to find my son Connor lying on West 53rd Street, wincing in pain and holding his leg and telling me where he hurt. Beside him was my daughter Annie, crying and cradling her arm. As a pediatric nurse practitioner with experience in a pediatric emergency department and now urgent care, I've cared for many children who have been injured. This was different. This was my children. They were the ones who were hurt. So I began triaging their injuries and comforting them. The St. Agnes parents, the teachers, the principal, the church staff and priest, the Roland Park and Fairway Police, fire department, and paramedics arrived quickly to assess the situation and help care for my children. I am deeply grateful for their swift and their professional response. In the pediatric emergency department, Connor and Annie received evaluation and care. And by the grace of God, our children escaped with minor physical injuries, but the reality is it could have been much worse. They are now on the path to recovery, both physically and emotionally, but it's extremely difficult. The memory of being hit by a car is a trauma that will never fade, and yet they must face the scene of the accident every day. It's the only route to school, church and friends, and all the places that make up our daily lives. This is an example. My daughter's artwork last week at school. She's expressing her emotions. Annie drew herself with the word sad and hit by a car. Our children have learned the importance of helping others, including friends and neighbors at home and through the St. Agnes community. And they've received incredible prayers and love from our school community, our friends, and our neighbors. My son Connor told me, "Mom, people really care and think about us." And I said, "Yes, they do, son, they do." So we now ask that the City of Fairway to work with Roland Park to help protect, support and care for our children, our neighbors, and our friends by reassessing the speed limit, the school zoning, and the crosswalk reinstallation at this location. Please help make our community and our neighboring cities safe and healthy for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Anyone else? Yes? Oh.
Good
Okay.
evening. My name is Laura Fox, or Laura Steele. I am actually a Westwood City resident, but I'm also on the Westwood City Council. I'm also Director of Education at Bike Walk KC. I would just like to, if you weren't already aware of some of the pedestrian and bicycling improvements that were going to be happening on Mission Road, and hopefully could be extended down 53rd Street. So inclusion of bike lanes, other intersections, crosswalks, street lighting, pedestrian scale lighting, things like that. Some of these items would go a long way, extended down 53rd Street, to increasing the safety for students who are walking along that corridor, neighbors who are walking along that corridor, slowing the traffic. I mean, people are also not only going to school and to home, but to church. They're seeing the historic sites that are along there, and slowing traffic and allowing people to pay more attention to the road would go a long way. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone else? Hi, Kim.
I'm Kim Thurmond. I live at the infamous 53rd Street and Canterbury Road corner. Been there over 30 years.
What's your address specifically, please?
5300.
Thank you.
Not quite as long as Jean, but I have lived there a little over 30 years. And I hate to say that this was bound to happen, but it has turned into, instead of Mission Road, it's Mission Speedway. And I am really hoping that this study comes through quickly. It is incredibly difficult to get in and out of your own driveway without being creamed. It's an everyday occurrence, and there are plenty of us that are older walking up and down those streets. It's a beautiful city to live in. I am so grateful that they weren't hurt worse, but there are all sorts of, it's used as a conduit to rapidly go between Mission Road and the Parkway. People are going in and out of Canterbury all the time. And I think, I appreciate and hope that the study comes through. And if the study doesn't work, and maybe simple things like painting white stripes and the word slow on the road, I'll buy the paint. Volunteer crossing guards, short-term solutions, something, but it is a tragedy waiting to happen, and it's not a surprise to those of us that live right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else?
I'm not a Fairway resident. Leslie Creel, I'm Westwood. I live at the corner of 51st Terrace and Mission Road. So
Your address, please?
Oh, sorry, 3006 West 51st Terrace.
Thank you.
My kids go to St. Agnes too. We are very lucky in that we have the crosswalk button to push, but I can't tell you how many times my kids and I have almost been hit from people coming around that corner. So I'm very lucky, but I've been just as close. People go through that red light all the time. I've called over the years, Westwood Police, Roland Police. They try to do speed checks. There's only so much. I've asked if we could get what Westwood View gets, but again, we're in the same situation. We're part Roland Park, we're part Fairway, we're part Mission, but people run that crosswalk light all the time. So this is a really, really big problem. And people who live in Westwood and Fairway along that area know we are cut-through streets. My street's the cut-through to get to KU Med. Canterbury's the cut-through to get to Shawnee Mission Parkway. So I love to hear that we're gonna try to work with Roland Park, and now it sounds like awesome Westwood. So just wanna reiterate, I would highly recommend you guys between 7 and 8, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, check and see how fast people speed up and down Mission Road and just how unsafe it is. So, wasn't planning on talking, but just thank you for the time.
Just real quick.
Thank you.
Yes.
I may have completely misunderstood you.
Sorry,
but-
no.
But I think you said what Westwood View gets. What do you mean?
Well, when
by
I
that?
called the city of Westwood to say, can we get some police support during the morning speed hours, just to try to scare people from not speeding? And I said, Westwood View gets a crosswalk person, like a safety guard, to help them cross the street. I said, could we get one? I said, either collecting funds or taxpayer dollars, something, just to help scare people from running the red light. And we can't get one at that crosswalk light, they said, because the city, or Westwood View doesn't have an actual crosswalk light that turns red. But since we have that, we should be good, is what the consensus was. I've also asked the city of Westwood to trim the trees along that side. If you guys turn that corner coming down 53rd, trees are blocking the light. When the trees are full and the leaves are on, you can't see that red light. I've asked the city of Westwood to trim that many times. They said they would, they have not. That's been going on for about 6 months. So you also think about those trees blocking the view of when people turn that corner. But yes, what I was told from the city of Westwood is Westwood View doesn't have a push button, so therefore that's why they get a crosswalk. So my thought was, as someone mentioned, until you guys can get a push button, maybe we can get a crosswalk person. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? Nathan, anyone online? Okay, I will close public comment for item D. The council, I will entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the Burns and McDonnell agreement.
Mayor, I move that we approve item D, which is an amendment to our existing agreement with Burns and McDonnell for the 2025 and 2026 CARS application, to also study the feasibility of improvements to 53rd Street and to conduct a warrant analysis related to that.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment to the agreement with Burns and McDonnell.
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that just as a part of the motion, if we could also indicate that the cost, which was approximately $30,000, is going to come from the city's contingency fund.
And I move that the city's contingency fund be used to pay for the additional cost of the survey.
Second, agree with that? Yes. All right. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously.
Mayor, I will abstain simply due to the fact my wife is a Burns McDonnell employee.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
One abstention. Okay. Item E, executive session, attorney-client consultation. David?
Mayor, I move that the city council recess into an executive session to obtain legal advice about the terms of a funding agreement between the city and the developer seeking to redevelop the former Houlihan site pursuant to the attorney-client consultation exception in KSA 75-4319B2. The executive session will include the city attorney and the city administrator. The open meeting here will resume in the city council chamber in 30 minutes, so we'll go with 8:15 p.m.
8:15. All right, we are going to go to executive session, and we'll be on the second floor. We will be back and reconvene at 8:15.
Mayor, we need a second.
Oh, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Nathan.
Recording stopped.
Well, that's why I come on. We need to sit there. We'll be right back. Right here.
All right, it's 8:16. We are
Recording in progress.
back on the record. We lost an attorney. That's not good. While we're waiting for him, no binding action was taken in the executive session. And we are ready to address item F. There he is. I'd like to introduce Whitney Van Zant. Whitney is a restaurateur here in Kansas City, a local individual, owns a number of restaurants. And he is here to make a presentation on 2820 West 53rd Street concept. And Nathan, do you have anything you want to add? Okay, Whitney, welcome. If you'll state your name and address, turn on the mic. State your name and address for the record and begin your presentation, please.
Whitney Van Zant. My address is 2015 Drury Lane, Mission Hills, Kansas 66208.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm the founder and owner of W. Van Zant Restaurants. It's a Kansas City headquartered restaurant group. Within our group, we have 12 different concepts. We operate 17 different properties, as well as private event business and some other passions on the side, such as Van Zant Wines, our vineyard in Sonoma Valley. Tonight, I'd like to present the Fairway, a restaurant proposed for the former Houlihan space. This is a space that I've known for quite some time. It's been vacant for, I believe, over 5 years at this point. But certainly not because of its location. We think, we know this area very well, and Fairway, we think would be a wonderful place for a family-oriented restaurant. The restaurant first, when our first concept for it was somewhat based off of the concept, the Brew Top Pub and Patio, which currently has 2 locations in Kansas City, one in the north, one in the south, Berry Road and 135th. The Brew Top serves elevated food. It also functions as a great place to socialize for the communities that surround them. As we've progressed with our thoughts and are continuing to progress with what we want to do with the Fairway here in Fairway, we really want to tailor it to the community. Thus the name. And Nathan, if you would move forward on the. You keep going. I'd like to get to the first renderings of the restaurant. So this, there we go. Thank you. So in this rendering, it showcases some of the amenities we'd like to have within the restaurant. We'd like to expand the patio and make it much more socially active. We're talking fire pits and landscaping, a really nice place to dine. We want to, within the food menu, elevate that according to what we think Fairway would like. We know a lot about that, operating Graham and Dunn on the Plaza, BRGR, Va Benet, and Taco Republic in Corinth Square. And so we feel that we're positioned well to put forward an elevated food product that that we think will be very popular. One of the items we should note is that, with our discussions, the construction materials will be sustainable. It'll abide by the sustainability codes that Fairway has. I don't know what the name of that is.
Just through the public incentive policy.
Yeah.
Yep.
The restaurant will also employ over 80 people, local. It will bring sales and property taxes to a building that hasn't been functioning for quite some time. The proposal that we have is to obtain a funding agreement for it. The reason being, this restaurant property has been vacant for 5 years and will need a significant amount of investment up front to get the doors open. Nathan, let's keep going, see if I... These are some of the elevations. With tailoring the Fairway to the local community, we wanted to, one of the items that we wanted to do that would separate it from existing concepts, such as the brew top, is to close it earlier than what we typically would do. The brew top typically closes 2 a.m. in the morning. We proposed midnight for Fairway, and understand that those final hours of the night are usually quite profitable hours for us within the restaurant business. So, that is actually a significant investment. We also wanted to, look at using as many local contractors, and if any security or any of that was needed, we'd like to speak. I think, Mr. Thurl, I'd like to speak further with you about that. If there was a way we could do that in a way that worked well with the city and the police force as well. Nathan, you want to? Sustainability, we covered that. I think that really concludes the primary information about the restaurant. I'd like to open it up to question and answers if anyone has any questions.
Council, does anyone have questions concerning the concept?
You mentioned the midnight closing. What type of opening time are you considering? Is this a lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, just dinner?
I think 11 a.m. weekdays on Saturday and Sundays. We anticipate there to be a strong brunch crowd within this community, so we would like to open up 9 a.m.
Anyone else? Lee?
Hey, Winnie, thank you for being here. So,
We need you for the record.
okay, how about that?
That's okay.
So you spoke about tailoring it for Fairway. Clearly, you have chefs across all kinds of different concepts. How do you anticipate doing that? You want feedback from the community?
Well, the first. Okay. Thanks for the question. The first part of that would be to look at the P-mixes that we have in place in other restaurants that surround this. We have a pretty good idea from, Graham and Dunn, BRG are not too far away. But as we have the resources within our restaurant company here in Kansas City to employ chefs that can provide that elevated experience. More specifically, we're talking scratch food. We're talking about food that takes a longer time to build, but generally with that comes a flavor profile that is higher quality. So,
Council, any other questions? Dan?
Thank you for putting this presentation together. Also, thank you for not going through it line by line, or we might be here all night. But I assume now that we've seen this is a public document, and then somewhere on the website it will be tomorrow so that the public can see it? Okay, awesome, thank you.
yep. One thing I would like to add is that, we know how the brew top functions, and that's where this started. But we have a great amount of flexibility because of the resources within our company, specifically in Kansas City, to tailor this in ways that the community really wants. So, the one thing that I would like to invite as much discussion about that as possible. I think, this is our home. I don't live very far away from here. Last thing I want to do is see my neighbors upset with me about the way our menu looks here at the Fairway. So I would add that, if we see that, that guests want a larger wine menu or cocktail menu, or they want more sophisticated proteins, that's something that we're going to be open, flexible towards.
Okay, any other David?
Yeah. In terms of the elevated food concept, Whitney, you have the two brew tops, and you mentioned Graham and Dunn on the plaza.
Yes.
Are you envisioning the food here to be more similar to the brew tops, which I have not been to because they are a little north and south from here, or Graham and Dunn, which I have been to, or Merchants in Lawrence?
I'm going to throw another one in there. Louis' Wine Dive, you may know it. If you don't, you should go there. But I think that is somewhere in between the two. So it's casual enough that it makes sense to go and dine there on a Tuesday night, and yet we can also deliver meals that people are excited about for special date nights and times like Valentine's Day coming up. So we're gonna try to have a wide demographic within the menu composition.
Kelly?
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. Thank you for coming, Whitney. Really appreciate everything, the work you put into this and your group. My question is, how are you going to encompass the Fairway with the rest of the Fairway shops? What is your idea of how you can help uplift them also and make the Fairway shops even more successful than they are now, part one? And part two is what are you seeing right now in the restaurant business as far as the economy is concerned? And what do you see? I know you must take statistics every year and know what you're going to be selling, like the week of St. Patrick's Day or the March Madness or whatever. So you know how many staff you need or how much food you need and so forth. So thank you.
Thank you for the question. The first part of that question, when I think of the Fairway shops, I think of authenticity. That's the first word that comes to mind. Fairway's very fortunate to have some of the places that have been here. Rainy Day Books, those are wonderful and they're authentic. So I think that that is something that we certainly want to preserve and embellish upon. When you show that you're using authentic materials in your build out, you have authentic people first and foremost, a team that operates it, and then you carry that through the quality and the hard work going into the product and service on a daily basis. That product sells itself. Second part of that question, the restaurant business in general right now is not great. I think, since what we've seen in Kansas City was really around June of last year a softening across concepts, across restaurants citywide. And that's, I talk with all the multi-unit restaurateurs and distributors and so forth on a daily basis. And we've seen that at pretty much all levels of dining. I think there's more attrition occurring in fast food right now than what you see in full-service restaurants. I think, so, to combat that softening, what we've worked on is just looking back at our teams, focusing on, the people who run and make up these restaurants, which are much bigger than the brick and mortar that you get at any restaurant. So that's where our focus is.
Anyone else, council? All right, I will open it for public comment. Questions only concerning the concept right now. That's what item F is, so please limit your questions just to the concept. Yes, please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record.
I'm Eugene Young, 5622 Chadwick. Earlier this evening, I heard some folks mention about their time in Fairway. This spring, I will be my 59th year as a resident of Fairway. Bought the house from the original owner. I'm thinking because of that 10 years ago, they asked me to be the city historian, and I still am. But I just wanted to mention a couple things. First of all, when we had the 75th birthday party up in Neil Peterson Park, I had some information that was wonderfully provided by the city staff. A little background. The building was started in the middle of 1941 as a theater. And of course, Pearl Harbor happened in December. And they let the building go ahead and be finished in the spring of 42 because it had already been started. But if it had been started after that because of the priorities implicit with World War, it wouldn't have been built. And consequently, anyway, it was finished. It was the only first-run movie theater in Johnson County. There were other theaters, but they would be the sort of minor theaters. But it was a first-run theater, meaning the big stuff came there like it did downtown or the plaza. It was by itself. Between the building and where the hen house is now was empty. And those shops didn't get built until I think, probably late 40s. And in fact, the building is 7 years older than the city of Fairway. It was 42, and Fairway was incorporated in 49. I guess my point of all this is of saying that it is an anchor. It's an anchor that's, you might say, stuck in the mud at the moment and empty. And I have great memories of when it was Houlihan's and when it was Whooperman's before that, and when it was the Fine Arts Theater before that, and when it was the Fairway Theater. So I can't help but think that how can I say, that good old critter deserves to have a new tenant in it. It certainly deserves the ability to provide tax income for the city. And anything we can do, I think, to encourage its success in the way of resolutions from the city and so on. But as I think I mentioned somebody before, when we moved here in '66, there were 5 gas stations in Fairway. 5. And times have changed over the years, of course. And it's a situation where I like to think that building has survived these times and it was an enjoyable restaurant before, and I see no reason to stand in the way of trying to have it be one again.
Thank you, Gene. Anyone else? Concept only, please. State your name and address.
Tyler Enders, 4987 Ward Parkway, Kansas City, Missouri. Is now an appropriate time for a brief comment as well? Because it's not a question.
We're talking about,
About
the concept.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So Mayor and council and city staff, my name's Tyler Enders. I'm one of the owners of Rainy Day Books and of Fairway, or in a Front Range in Fairway. And I want to just mention two things. So one's briefly the idea of local ownership. I'm a huge fan of Whitney and his team. I think there's a reason that Richard and Teresa of Bo Ling's have partnered and sold their concept to Whitney on the Plaza after decades. I think there's a reason that Steve with Waldo Pizza has sold to Whitney after decades. You know, there are people who really know the business and really trust that he's going to carry on their legacy. And so it is really comforting for me as someone who's been asking the broker of that building for 5 years why there's nothing there, to have someone who's a local restaurateur who really does understand what it means to work in a neighborhood-oriented business and to carry on a legacy more so than just having a restaurant concept for a few years. The second thing I want to note is, as I mentioned, I've been asking and kind of pestering the broker why there hasn't been any movement there because it's such a wonderful spot. And when I ask that question, sometimes he'll offer up some of the things that he's heard in terms of people who are interested. And sometimes those concepts are things that I wouldn't want. And so he'd say, well, do you want a veterinary clinic there? And say, well, no, that's not what I want. He's like, well, we have plenty of people who'd want that. Or do you want this type of operator there? And it might be a chain restaurant that's regionally owned but not locally owned. And that's not something that I want either. So I do think that we have a unique pairing here and that we finally, hopefully, found something that's going to be really responsive to the neighborhood, really respectful of the neighborhood, and also is owned by someone who's a part of the neighborhood. So I'm excited about the prospect of it. I know there's a lot more for you all to contemplate than just the concept, but I'm excited from that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Christy Hayes, and I live at 5425 Aberdeen. First of all, I'm very encouraged by what I've heard so far, and also by what Tyler said. I like the idea of a concept in Fairway that is unique to our neighborhood and not just a reiteration of an existing restaurant. One of my favorite restaurants around here, and something that makes me envious of Prairie Village, is the French Market. And so I'm curious if there's any world in which you think that you would offer fresh, like grab-and-go options like that. And then as a follow-up question, do you have a vision to work with local partners? So I think of like Local Pig for sourcing local meat, or even New Roots for Refugees, which does a lot of locally grown produce.
What was the first question? Fresh grab-and-go options. Yeah, that had not been something that we thought of prior to this. But we certainly do that at some of our restaurants. Let's talk further about that after this. To your second question, locally sourced, our company does a tremendous amount of local sourcing. I would bring up merchants in Lawrence. We source from over 28 different local farms, buying everything from as little as a few orders of chilies in August through proteins and so forth. So we work very hard at that. It's a passion, and it's something that we would certainly plan on doing here. So.
Anyone else? Eric?
Good evening, Eric Smith, 5346 Belinda Road. I'll be really brief. I may have some additional comments on the funding, but I just wanted to say that I really support this concept. It seems like a home run to me. We've needed a restaurant there for 5 years. It would be a tragedy, I think, to let anything other than a great locally owned restaurant like this go into that space. So we're very supportive, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeannie Brown, 5645 State Park Road. Reiterate exactly what he said. We've been without a restaurant for so long, and the great thing about it is the walkability factor. I mean, this neighborhood is, you know, compact. It would be so great to just be able to walk up someplace and have a glass of wine, have a meal, whatever. And this community is so tight. It's such a great gathering. It would be such a great gathering place. So I totally support that idea. And I love that it's not an Applebee's or something. It's something unique, something nice, something classy.
Thank you.
Garrett Gates, 5310 Canterbury. My question is like family-oriented versus like place where you can take your kids. I'm imagining that concept. I've been to essentially all your restaurants. Very supportive of this idea, but kind of wanted to get a feedback like bar hangout versus family centric.
So I have 4 children, and you know, when you have children, you know how difficult it oftentimes is to go and eat with them, and I mean, it takes a lot of planning. You learn the little things like, you know, you learn to appreciate a server when the first thing they do is bring beverage, but also ask, can I get your kid's order in, right? There's nothing better. So I think that, you know, we understand this is a residential area, and with that, the family trends is something that I think that it'll be very easy for us to care for. To further that, oftentimes in residential scenarios, we found that the weekend business as a ratio is much higher than compared to the weekdays, as opposed to a more level volume of business that occurs throughout the week that you find in dense urban, oftentimes office areas. So the wonderful thing is we operate both in Kansas City. So we have the resources and the knowledge, the understanding, I think, to both take care of the families very well, while also understanding that there are going to be certain days, certain nights of the year that is going to be much more adult-oriented. I think, you know, the two are not mutually exclusive. I think, you know, the Fairway will be able to support both.
Anyone else? Nathan, anyone online? All right, we'll close this public comment section for item F. We will move on to item G. The presentation of the concept was step 1. Item G is step 2. Consider funding agreement regarding 2820 West 53rd Street. Nathan, will you talk about the funding agreement, please?
Sure. So funding agreement for any sort of public incentive is a pretty standard agreement between the potential developer and the city of Fairway. It's not exclusive to Fairway. I don't know a single city in Johnson County that does not do a funding agreement. A funding agreement is the first step in the potential of establishing a development agreement. That development agreement then focuses on the sort of the negotiated terms of what sort of a public incentive would be available to the developer as a part of the project. We currently have 2 projects in Fairway that have active public incentive agreements. One of those is the Fieldston, which is under construction, and the other is the 4200 Shawnee Mission Parkway building, which is where the Starbucks is located. Again, both of those projects started with this funding agreement here. And the funding agreement does not commit the city or the developer into actually moving forward with the development project. What the funding agreement does is it says this is a potential for private or a private-public financing mechanism that is available under Kansas state statute. For the city to explore this as a possibility, this is not something that we as a city budget legal dollars for in order for the city to spend the money to determine if we can get to an actual development agreement. So the funding agreement simply spells out that the developer will cover the city's costs for its legal expenses or any sort of financial analysis that we would undertake as a part of preparing the actual development agreement, which is what would include any of the actual public incentives that we have available for developers to use in the city of Fairway. So this is step one. Again, I just want to be clear on that. All of the other details, all of the other discussions about what specific terms would be applied to a potential public incentive, that is a step that we tackle next. So it's first getting this funding agreement in place, and then we will start to work with the developer on the specifics of what they are requesting, as well as what the city believes is appropriate in order to offer as a part of the development project. So tonight, it's simply just creating the mechanism by which the city is recovered in terms of its expenses as it's related to this project. Because this is a private project, the city would not front those legal bills for a private development.
Thank you, Nathan. Todd, is there anything you'd like to add?
Not really, Mayor. Nathan covered this very well. These are very standard agreements. This one's very short and sweet. It's 2 pages, and it does really kick off the process where we dig in, explore, talk about the budget, and figure out what an incentive package for this concept, this project would look like. That's really all it does.
Okay, great. Council, questions, discussion about the funding agreement? None? All right, I'll open it to public comment concerning only the funding agreement regarding 2820 West 53rd Street. Anyone care to come forward? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Calvin Chestnut, 5447 Canterbury. I understand that you have 2 CIDs going right now?
Just one.
Just one, and that's for the major apartment complex?
So that's actually a TIF district for the major apartment complex.
Oh, okay, okay.
Where the Starbucks is located, that's where the CID is.
Okay, okay. My only concern as a resident, my brother was mayor of Lawrence when the Oriad Hotel was created under the CID provisions, and there was fraud involved with all of the, Joel Fritzl was the person that developed the project. He brought a lot of his other projects as far as the total appropriations were concerned, or where he wanted the tax rebates on for the sales tax. And that kind of blew up. I understand the state of Kansas does all the auditing, is that correct?
We have our own internal audits.
You do your, okay. I
Yeah.
thought the state was responsible for this.
No, we have to submit our audit to the state.
Okay, okay. Anyway, but I think the concept in its own right, I mean, with the vacancy being there 5 years, it's a great idea, but probably some kind of clawbacks might be appropriate in the structure, just in case, because it's going to be such a, you know, as the restaurant business is one of those businesses that's very cyclical, and you never know what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments concerning the funding agreement? Eric?
Eric Smith, 5346 Belinder. I just wanted to say briefly that we really support the use of a CID for this type of business. And so as we look at those options, as the council looks at those, we'd appreciate that consideration. We've used that for, an operator like a chain coffee business, and if we can use that to support and get a good local restaurant into that space, it would be a perfect use of the concept in our view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just make just one.
Yes.
One correction there. For the CID at the 4200 building, that CID is with the building ownership group. It is not with any of the tenant, well, not with the tenant that's in there.
It's with the owner.
So it's with the owner of the building, not the tenant.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close public comment on this item. Ask for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the funding agreement regarding the 2820 West 53rd potential project, and that you be authorized to sign that on behalf of the city.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the funding agreement regarding 2820 West 53rd Street. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. That's, well, yeah, step two, step one of the agreement stage. Now we will take this to the other side, and hopefully they will sign it. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to see us make it this far. It has been a struggle. Nathan and I have worked very, very hard on this, and I know it's been 5 years, and I've hated every minute of it, just like you guys have. It's walkable for me too, and we're doing our very, very best. I like the concept too. It was good to hear that tonight. Okay, now don't all leave at once. The last item is the election of a city council president. We need to do that because of the vacancy. We don't have one right now. And so I will accept nominations. Joe?
Mayor, thank you. I'd like to nominate my co-councilman, Ward 3, David Watkins.
All right, are there any other nominations? All right, I'll close nominations. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations, David. All right, next on the agenda is the governing body comment section. During this time, members of the governing body will be given the opportunity to speak about matters related to the city. No formal action will be taken during this time. Anyone feel like talking about something? David?
Well, we need to stretch this meeting out a little bit longer. I do want to thank everyone who's here and who was here earlier. These are very disparate reasons you came tonight, but it's nice to see community involvement and engagement. And I would encourage you all to sign up for our email program, get on our website, become engaged in our city, because unfortunately, a night like tonight is a rare pleasure. Normally, it's just us and Chief Chick, if it happens to be the fire district's turn to report. So thank you for coming, and please continue to be engaged. Thanks.
Kelly?
I want to also piggyback on what David just said. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're so appreciative that you're so passionate about this issue and all issues concerning Fairway. And this is very exciting for us when we see a lot of people come in the door. So thank you again, and please stay active, stay following this issue so we can hopefully get it to fruition and get it done. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of negotiation, and so we're going to do the best thing for the city of Fairway. Thanks.
And if any of you know me, I was going to say, if any of you know me well, but you don't even have to know me well to know that I believe in total transparency. And I will not falter from that. And we will keep you apprised. We have lots of ways that we communicate, but please read what we send you. Thank you. Any other? Yeah, Lee?
Just going to say the same thing quickly. Thank you all for being here. I think government works best when we work together. And I think we had the largest crowd for quite some time when we did the tunnel. And earlier tonight, we saw the plans for the tunnel. It looks beautiful. It's going to be fantastic. And then once we get a restaurant in here, we can all walk through the tunnel and go over and have a drink or a taco or whatever. And life will be good in the Fairway Shop. So thanks, everybody, for being here.
Anyone else on council? All right. I will open public comment for items not listed on the agenda. Anyone make it clear through that wants to talk about something else? Anyone online? Nope. All right, I'll close public comment. And Tanya, we have another executive session.
Mayor, I move that City Council recess into executive session to obtain legal advice about pending litigation involving the city pursuant to attorney-client consultation exception in KSA 75-4319B2. The executive session will include special counsel, city attorneys, and the city administrator, and the open meeting will resume in City Council chamber in 30 minutes at approximately
9:25.
9:25. Thank you.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, no? All right.
Mayor, just for those in the audience, there is no anticipated action at the
Okay,
conclusion.
there is no anticipated action after this executive session.
And as such, I'm going to go ahead and terminate all the recordings for the.
So we will terminate
Yep.
all the recordings, and no additional business will take place. When we come back, we will immediately adjourn.